Hey, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Topics today include baseball, leadership, and a paradox.
Wrong! What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all?
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you people? Wrong!
You do have to tolerate it. It's my show.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm here to talk about politics, culture, religion, sports, and anything else you're not allowed to talk about in polite company. Issue number 1! Inflation! Okay, I am hopping mad about something. I am hopping mad. I'm happen mod. I am so angry because there is no baseball. This is the time of year where I can start thinking about baseball, and I can start getting news reports with grainy video on Twitter of a pitcher warming up for the first time in public, and I can be excited because soon there will be baseball. And right now there is no baseball, and that is because there is a lockout. The owners are keeping the players out, and they're keeping them out because their collective agreement has come to an end, and if they don't resolve it, then the players can go on strike. So to keep the players from going on strike and causing a situation where there's no baseball, the owners have locked out the players so that there's no baseball. And it's hard not to say so the owners just now canceled another week of baseball. They canceled the first week like 2 weeks ago, and then today they said, hey, we're canceling the second week. And this doesn't have to be this way. First off, it's totally the owner's fault. If I haven't said that again, I'm going to say it again. It's the owner's fault. The owners locked the players out at the end of the last season, and they said, we need to lock the players out because we need to come to an agreement. So we've locked them out so that they know that we need to talk. And then the owners refused to talk for 43 days. They did not let the players even talk to them for 43 days. Second, there's this thing going on called inflation. You probably know about it, but let me explain just in case. Inflation is when your money isn't worth as much as it used to be. You know that McDonald's used to charge a nickel for hamburgers, and now they're charging $5 for a hamburger. And the reason is because money isn't worth what it used to be worth. And the reason there's inflation, there's a lot of reasons for it, but the main reason is that the government creates more and more money to be available for everybody. And that means the money is worth less than it used to be. It used to be that money was based on gold, and however much gold you had in your country, that's how much money you had. And for lots of good reasons, that's not the case anymore. We have lots of valuable things, and the money is based on all the valuable things we might have in our country, but most of all in the stability of the U.S. government. And both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, for some good reasons and some bad reasons, decided to spend a lot of money. And when you spend that money, you've got to come up with it somewhere. And if you're not raising taxes, that means you've got to create more money. And when you create more money, money is worth less. So the players know this. They understand this. And they come to the owners and say, hey, our money is worth less than it used to be. We can't keep playing for this same exact amount of money, because if we do, it means we're losing money. And this is true of you too. If you've got the same salary that you had 3 years ago, you're actually working for less money than you did then. And you need a raise. You need a cost of living adjustment. It's not even a raise. It's just like hey, let's recognize that this money, what I was getting paid, is less than what I used to get paid. So the main sticking point is that the owners have this, let's call it a salary cap for lack of a better word. And I don't want to explain the whole thing because you don't care. But there's a cap on how much the players are getting paid. And the owners refuse to increase that with inflation. They said, no, we're going to keep that the same. We're going to keep it the same in fact, we're going to keep it the same for another 5 years. And that's wrong.
Wrong!
Gosh, there's no baseball. because the owners are trying to screw the players with something as fundamental and rudimentary as inflation. Gosh, I'm angry. Issue number 2. Ukraine. Okay, I'm ready to talk about Ukraine now. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to say something that is a hot take, and that's why I avoided talking about it in my last episode. First off, I want to say that President Zelensky of Ukraine is showing enormous moral leadership, and we are all drawn to it, and we think it's great, and we are captivated by it. And there's good reason we're captivated by it. First off, we don't see it ourselves. You know, like President Trump's own government was telling everybody that, hey, you should wear a mask. And President Trump wouldn't wear a mask. And then, here in California, our governor said, hey, everybody, this COVID thing's really bad. I'm shutting down all the schools. And as he shuts down all the schools, he sends his own children to a private school, which is in session. And then he shuts down all the restaurants. And then he goes to a restaurant and has a party, a really expensive restaurant, has a party with a bunch of, lobbyists and political figures and stuff. So gross, so hypocritical. And then during the football playoffs, the San Francisco 49ers were playing the Los Angeles Rams here in Los Angeles. And the city, well, the county of Los Angeles, it wasn't in Los Angeles City, but it was in the county. And the state of California had very clear rules about stadiums. And they said, yep, you can have games, but everybody needs to be wearing a mask. Doesn't matter if it's an indoor stadium or outdoor stadium. Everybody needs to be wearing a mask everywhere in the stadium unless you're actively eating or drinking. Well, the mayors of LA and San Francisco, they see Magic Johnson. And they're like, hey, it's Magic Johnson. We need a photo with Magic Johnson. Please, Magic, take a photo with us. And who doesn't want a photo with Magic Johnson? Awesome smile, charismatic guy. Like, he seems like he's your friend, even if you've never met him. Even if you probably disagree with, all of his politics. I don't even know what his politics are, but I want a picture of Magic Johnson. I don't blame them. So these two mayors with really restrictive COVID restrictions in their cities, they get a photo, and the first thing they do is they take off their masks so they can all smile with Magic. And of course, this hits social medias, it starts making the news. And then the stupid mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, he says, no, it was fine. I was holding my breath.
Wrong!
No, you don't get to say you were holding your breath. You make us walk with a mask on from the front of the restaurant 20 feet to the table with a mask on before we can take it off. We could all hold our breath there, but you say that's not okay. You can't then turn around and say, it's okay for me to take my mask off in this public setting because I was holding my breath. It's wrong, it's hypocritical, and it's just the lowest bar of leadership. It's the easiest thing to surpass in leadership. All you have to do is do the things that you're telling everybody else to do. And if you don't, you are failing at moral leadership. And so no wonder when President Zelensky is getting bombed by Russia, and he says, I'm staying here and I'm fighting with my country, we don't all go, finally, we've got a leader somewhere in the world who's doing what he's asking his people to do. And, he closed the borders so that any man between the age of 18 and 60 can't leave. And the U.S. government sends, a helicopter, or the CIA, somehow they send transportation to him and say, hey, we want to move you out of Kiev so that you don't die. And he says, I don't need a ride. I need more ammunition. And it's awesome. Way to go. Exactly what you should be doing as a leader. If you want to defend your country and you want the people in your country to defend it, you stay there with them and you defend it with them. And you don't say, it's okay, I'm holding my breath. Okay, the second thing I want to say about this war in Ukraine is that it is the first war where it's the first social media war ever. Like, we've had Facebook and Twitter for a while, and for whatever reason, it didn't really take off. You know, you see things from Afghanistan and Iraq occasionally, but this is like, it's being broadcast live on Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and Instagram. And what you need to remember is that Russia is famous for propaganda. And so anything you hear from Russia, you should be skeptical of. And my heart goes out to the Russian people because they're being fed nothing but state-sponsored propaganda. They don't know the truth about what's happening in Ukraine. I've heard from people who know people in Ukraine or in Russia, that they don't even know that there are troops surrounding Kiev right now because they're not being told. Likewise, you need to recognize that Ukraine is also sending out propaganda. And I believe that Ukraine is on the right side of this fight. I think what Russia is doing is gross and immoral, and they are a rogue nation and probably war criminals. The Russian government, the Russian army, and for sure Vladimir Putin. But while I believe that the Ukraine are the good guys in this situation, they are also sending out propaganda. In the first day or two, there was the story about this fighter jet pilot who had taken down 2 Russian MiGs, and then it was, no, he's taken down 6, and he's being called the Ghost of Kiev. And then there was this report about this island, I think it was called Snake Island, where these Ukrainian soldiers, they were being hailed by a Russian battleship to abandon their post and surrender, otherwise they'd be killed. And in kinder words than they were using, they told the Russian battleship to screw off. And then there was also this report of a guy who was wiring a bridge with a bomb, so the bridge would be destroyed before the Russian troops got there. And before the Russians got there, they came up too quickly for him, and he couldn't get to safety, and so he blew himself up along with the bridge. Lots of other stories too. All of these, you need to recognize that the Ukrainian government has incentive to send out propaganda. First, they want their people to fight. They want to give stories of valor and courage to their own people so that they follow suit. Second, they want the West, they want the NATO countries, they want the whole world to know that, hey, we're fighting and we're good at fighting and we're holding off the Russians more than you could have imagined. So please, won't you send us more ammunition as we fight? You see how well we're doing. And those 3 stories I told you, there's probably elements of them that are true, but they're probably also greatly exaggerated. And they're greatly exaggerated for your benefit and for the benefit of propaganda. I don't know what parts of those stories are true, but I think all of them are probably false. More false than they are true. And so, when you see something from Ukraine in your feed, you need to think, first and foremost, this is probably not true. It doesn't mean it's not true. It's just, it needs to be your first impulse. There were images just today of a maternity ward in Children's Hospital that were shelled and bombed by the Russians. And I don't know if it's true or not. I remember this funny thing I saw on social media. This young woman, she saw this thing on TikTok of this gorgeous town in North Carolina. And she's like, hey, we're driving through North Carolina. We should take a detour to see this place. This looks amazing. So she drove like 2.5 hours out of her way to see this beautiful town in North Carolina. And in fact, somebody was taking beautiful video from Switzerland and then putting podunk town names in North Carolina on top of the video. And she fell for it. She's like, I got to see this place. This is amazing. And if she wanted to see it, she needed to go to Switzerland, not North Carolina. And what that guy was doing, it's kind of funny, but you need to recognize it's happening a lot for a lot of reasons. And this video I was seeing of the Ukrainian hospital that had been shelled, it could be anything. I don't know what that hospital looks like in real life. Somebody could take some other piece of video and just put the words over top of it. And so keep your guard up. Recognize that there are lots of bad actors who are manipulating you because they want to, or because they think it's funny, or they just, they want to get their lulz because you fell for this video game footage and somebody told you that it was actual footage of, Russian trucks being blown up or whatever. And also the Ukraine, I said it again.
Wrong!
Gosh darn it. Ukraine has motivation to make you think that they're doing better than they are. And they're doing great, but they want you to think that they're doing even better than they really are. So keep your skepticism up. Always first say, this is probably false. Before you share it, before you believe it, just know that there's this thing called the fog of war. You don't know what's actually happening. Russia doesn't actually know what's happening. Ukraine doesn't actually know what's happening in the moment of any of these places. The U.S. intelligence service doesn't know exactly what's happening. It takes a little bit for the fog to clear. And give yourself the benefit of the doubt over and over and over again as this thing is waged on social media. Remember, I want to know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with you?
If you'd like to submit a question, topic, or tell me how I was wrong, you can email me at listen@therewrongpodcast.com or submit a comment at my website, therewrongpodcast.com, and help me spread the wrong message. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Issue number 3, Paradox. Okay, the first time I ever heard the word paradox, I think I was probably in 6th grade and I was watching a high school production of The Pirates of Penzance. And there's a whole song about a paradox.
I am a little boy of 5. He is a little boy of 5. A paradox, a most ingenious paradox. A curious paradox. A most ingenious paradox.
And it turns out, it's not even about a paradox. This is like the first Alanis Morissette ironic kind of situation, where you sing on and on and on about something and you don't even know the definition of the thing. What they're singing about in Pirates of Penzance, it's actually a loophole, not a paradox. A paradox is when you have a statement that's seemingly contradictory on first blush. And then, when you look into it more deeply, turns out it's true. And there is a paradox happening right now in our world. And it's called the Stability-Instability Paradox. Now, the United States and NATO are not coming to Ukraine's defense. We are not sending in troops. We are not establishing a no-fly zone over the country to aid refugees in their flight from the war. There's reports of like a 40-mile long traffic jam created by Russian trucks and armor that have all run out of fuel or hit bottlenecks. And it's just a sitting duck for an airplane, really. Like, not even a very good airplane with some, like Vietnam era airplanes with guns on them, prop airplanes, not even fighter jets, could do a number on that convoy, if it's real. And we are not sending those kind of airplanes in to take care of this massive sitting duck. And the reason is because Russia has nuclear weapons. And if they feel provoked or attacked, they will use them on the people who are attacking them. And Vladimir Putin is making it very clear, hey, don't forget, we've got all these nuclear weapons. Or, as George W. Bush would say, nuclear. So we're not attacking them because of the fear of nuclear missiles. And in turn, he and the Soviet Union never attacked the United States because we too have nuclear weapons. And the reason that nobody attacks each other is because of this fear of mutual destruction. Mutually assured destruction, I think, is as it was known. And this mutually assured destruction creates something known as the Stability-Instability Paradox. These monstrous weapons that could wipe out the Earth, they create enormous instability. And because they create so much instability in our world, stability is actually created between warring parties. They know that they can't fight each other out in the open. So that creates stability. But they still want to jockey for position, and they want to fight one another in other ways. So it spills out into a bunch of smaller conflicts, and it actually creates instability in a bunch of other places. The Vietnam War, the Soviet Union's involvement in Afghanistan. There's a bunch of places, bunch of places throughout the world where instability was breaking out because the Soviet Union and the United States were at war with each other, but couldn't be at war with each other out in the open because of the fear of mutually assured destruction. So the nuclear weapons, they've actually created more stability than because of the fear of them that you would think would exist. And it's not just between our two countries. It's also between India and Pakistan. There was a lot of fighting. They used to be one country. They split up basically over religious issues. And they said, hey, this country over here, this is a Muslim country. And this country over here, this is a Hindu country. And if you are of the other religion in either territory, you best just walk across the border and get with your own kind. A lot of sorrow, a lot of heartache created, and there was a lot of animosity and bitterness between those two countries for a long time, and it persists. And there's all kinds of border skirmishes. It's unclear where the border actually is. And then, about 20 years ago, both of those countries developed their own nuclear weapons. And suddenly, all the fighting between them kind of died out. Everybody's kind of at peace. They're like, all right, okay, we get it. We can't pursue this anymore. In 1991, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. And Iraq did not have nuclear weapons. And what happened to him when he decided to invade another country without nuclear weapons? He got pummeled. The whole world responded, especially the United States. We're like, yeah, we're going to kick your butt. And we did. And there wasn't much he could do about it. What Saddam Hussein did to Kuwait was actually much less than what Vladimir Putin is doing to Ukraine right now. Much less. And the oil interests are the same. Ukraine has a huge natural gas field. They export a lot of natural gas. The same kind of economic pressures or incentives that existed in Kuwait, they exist in Ukraine. A ton of food that feeds the world comes out of Ukraine. There's plenty of money reasons to defend Ukraine, as many as there were to defend Kuwait. But the difference is that the aggressor, Russia, has the bomb, and we can't risk open war with somebody who has a nuclear weapon. And one of the saddest parts of this is that Ukraine had nuclear weapons. When the Soviet Union disbanded, they had the missiles in their possession, and they gave them up in exchange for the promise that their national boundaries would be observed. Well, it's kind of obvious now that they maybe made the wrong bet. But I could be wrong. If you think I am, let me know. And let me know why. I had fun and I hope you did too. Bye-bye.